I've been looking forward to this show for a long time, and so I'm glad we're able to have filled the gallery with these wonderful paintings. And okay. We've been working together for probably about 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I met you in 2000, so it's really like 25.
Yes, you were one of the first students.
But I don't work with you anymore, so I guess 20. Well, I mean, yeah, you kind of set me free.
Yeah. We started working together.
I graduated.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
When we were up in the studio up above the square, where the gallery began about the same time. You know?
Yeah.
Yep. And Joanie was making very popular watercolor florals and some landscapes, but the florals were particularly popular. And then she came to me, and I turned her into an abstract painter. No, we found her true calling, which was abstract painting. She realized that she could jettison the subject matter altogether and just go for color and form. And she has proven, well, it's not easy.
It wasn't even something that I thought about, Bill. You just said one day, because I was frustrated about painting another rose that looked like a rose. And you said, just play, just have fun and play with color and don't worry about it. It evolved into the abstract. It wasn't like I said, I'm going to be an abstract painter. I just loved that play aspect, so.
Yeah, well, and you see, she's a master of color, and she was even back doing florals in watercolor. So we just it evolved gradually into enjoying color. Mm-hmm. But the color has to be in some kind of shape. It can't just exist without some form. So there's form involved, which was the tricky part in starting to do abstract painting, because how you put the forms together and the shape of the forms and the balancing of the forms is this composition issue in abstract painting. And when you start, it seems like it'd be fun to put some shape here and a shape there, flat on the surface. And that's what you call entry level. As you spend 6 months at it, and then 5 years at it, and then 10 years and 20 years, you realize more and more what's involved. You begin to get a vocabulary of color relationships, a vocabulary of kinds of form to work with, a kind of grammar of putting it all together. I often refer to it as visual music, because if people don't understand, or they think they don't understand abstract art, what is this? It doesn't look like anything. Well, if you think of it as these colors and forms playing over your being, like music plays over your being, it's just sonic forms. We don't ask it to look like anything or sound like anything. It's just these beautiful qualities of sonic experience pouring over you. Well, that's what we do when we look at abstract painting. And then the more you look at a good one, the more it starts to go on. So it's very much like listening to jazz. Jazz sounds like just a bunch of noise oftentimes the first time you hear it. And then if you get more and more into jazz, you start to hear these layering of patterns, a theme and a secondary theme, and then a punctuation element, and then bringing in the primary theme again. It's composition, and that's the way it is with abstract painting. And then she's introduced referential elements that sort of tick off. It's like, it's just like kind of like a dream, a wonderful, vivid dream with all these things happening. And sometimes imagery pops up, and sometimes it's no imagery, it's just forms. And it's a whole world. So once you enter into the world of abstract painting, and then you start to, then I make people go out and look and go to the museums and look at the great abstract paintings. And then they realize what a fabulous world it is. Now, you say something.
Well, I think abstract art, much like music, is a universal language. So, you know, anybody from any country, any culture, any language could look at it and get something from it. maybe as opposed to something that was limited by language. Well, music's that way. Musicians can go to Japan and play, and it doesn't matter because it's music. There's, if it's like jazz music, it doesn't have any words. So in a way, that's the way I see abstract painting. It doesn't have words. It's not supposed to be anything. It's just a feeling. It's a feeling and a visual treat. And so it can be universally appealing.
Yes. And it appeals to different people like music appeals to people. In fact, I will want to hear a certain kind of music one day, but I don't want to hear it the next day. I want to hear something else because it's so connected with your inner emotional life that how you're feeling emotionally at any particular time, a particular grouping of colors in a certain way will just make you just what you need at that moment, what you want. So one of the fun things is going around and being in love with one painting one day, and then the next day I'm in love with another painting, and like that. It's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. One question, this lovely lady over here in the gold sweater. Thank you. I'm not real good with names. She asked me earlier, she said, because she knew from Pat Cohen, a good friend of mine, that I used to paint watercolors. And she said, how did you transition from painting things that were realistic to what you do now? And I said, actually, it was a great joy to transition from, just like I said earlier, having to paint something that looked like something, a tree that looked like a tree, or water that looked like water, to just be able to play and experiment and almost like putting together a puzzle, just see what works together, was very freeing. And so it wasn't hard at all. It actually was much easier for me than doing the realistic.
Yeah, it felt just right.
I found my niche.
Thing, yeah. We can start to talk about some of the paintings, but also there may be some other questions that people might have.
Do you play music while you're painting? And also, about how long do you spend doing per painting? Because on Facebook, you come up not that infrequently with this one I just did last night.
Yeah.
And there's so many, and they're so beautiful, and I just wonder what you're doing last night,
Well, yes, I always listen to music when I paint, either classical or jazz. As the night goes on, it may switch to rock, Santana, something wild. That's why some of them get a little, woo. But the other part of the question is how long, and that is, I get asked that a lot, and it's actually, it's little by little, and it starts with just over the last 20 years, observing colors that I like that work together, observing nature and shapes. And then, I may spend a whole week just thinking, not about what I'm going to paint, but just, so I paint a lot in my head. So when I can't sleep at night, I'm painting a painting in my head. But it doesn't mean I'll go and do that painting. My mind's always working on colors and forms, design. So to say that I sit down and in 6 hours paint a painting, it's not really accurate, because I have that, it's always in my awareness thing. Maybe I've always wanted to paint a pink and green painting. It may have been there for a while in there. And so when I sit down to paint, physically, it may only take me certain time to put it down, but there's a lot more to it than, because I don't know what I'm going to do. Every painting that I've painted here, I started out with a blank canvas, and I was as surprised as you would be that what came out. So
I feel so much joy, I look at something on Facebook and suddenly I'm smiling, and I don't do that with most art. I really don't. And so I'm wondering, is that a direct transmission of your mood into me. Is that why I'm smiling? Because you were smiling and full of joy when you were doing it?
Yes. Yeah, I may
But
not.
I think it's her nature. This is what she does in the world.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm not always happy.
But you do bring light to everything.
So, but once I start painting, I get happy. It's so fulfilling to me to look at those colors, to see them, opposite one another, how they complement one another, and the shapes. Oh, look at that neat shape. Look at that design there. Look how that works with that. It's all kind of a revelation, to me. So it's very, very fulfilling and makes me happy. So I think that you are seeing that.
As I understand it, I think you said once before, you use acrylics,
Yeah.
but they're black lines. There's a lot of definition. Is that
Those are
Ink?
acrylic paint pens,
okay?
and they have acrylic paint, but they
Right.
come they're liquid paint
Right.
in a pen.
Right.
So, yeah,
So it's all
they're all acrylic.
acrylic.
Yeah.
So you can move pretty quickly through the medium because it dries.
This is what I love.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about watercolor is it's easy cleanup. You don't need the turpentine or whatever now they use for oil. And you can put down a layer, and within a short amount of time you can put down another layer. So that's also, like you said, helps me paint in 6 hours because I can do multiple layers.
And do you dry it in between? I mean, these are.
I just let it dry, and I think while it's doing its drying, or I'll eat a snack or change the music or something, and then I come back and it's dry pretty quickly, and then I'll say, okay, now let's do our next layer.
So layers like 4 to 5. I mean, I'm sure
Oh,
you couldn't count it anyway. But till it's done. You do it till it's done.
I actually recycle old paintings that I don't like. So some of those you're going to see probably 10 layers, but yeah, depends. Paintings where there's a lot of white, like you see that one over there behind Werner, that is painted almost like a watercolor, very thin layers. And so that has some layers, but it's not like some of these others that are real thick and a lot of texture. There's one in this other room that has, you'll notice, bumps from the old painting. But I kind of like that.
And I've seen her go through 2 or 3 paintings that were pretty successful, only they weren't quite there, so then she goes back in, but now it becomes a new painting. And then that maybe become a whole new painting. So some of them are quite layered, and there's several paintings underneath also.
I have a question. You referenced earlier about your colors and playing with the colors, and I'm just wondering, like when you're setting up your palette, do you think to yourself, I want to be doing more primary, or I want to do more secondary, or like even something like this? Do you ever look at, like maybe a field of flowers and then choose colors, and how do you make a decision about your palette, or is it just really spontaneous?
I don't put all the colors I have, since I have so many, out because I won't use them. So I do decide, okay, this painting predominantly is going to be peach and pink and yellow, and then I'll introduce the green because it needs something more, or the violet or whatever. But I don't have a traditional palette where the painters have all their colors all out. Yeah, so that is the one thing I think through before I start is, what colors do I want to use today?
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
yeah.
Yeah.
So do you just start with a splash of color, or do you have a particular way that you begin each painting, or is that spontaneous too?
Yeah, I just start putting color down. And some paintings I may put that color all over the canvas to create a real unity. So then that's the first layer, and then the other layers come on top. Others I'll put down, one color then find another color I think looks nice with it or blends with it. So, you know, if you have a yellow, maybe put a yellow orange next to it and kind of blend them, create some nice analogous, which means beside each other on the color wheel. And then at some point I need to add a punch to it, so I'll bring in a complement color to that.
Which is the opposite on the color wheel.
Right. So like red and green, blue and orange, yellow and violet. And I really particularly love playing with the triadic.
With what?
Triadic.
Where is that?
Like yellow green, blue green, and red violet. They're split from the normal triad of red, yellow, blue, or green, orange, purple. They're over here somewhere in the, and I particularly love playing with those.
But she doesn't start with an intellectual idea that she's going to do these on the color wheel. She has this inner vision of those colors together as like a chord that drives her. Not that it doesn't begin with an intellectual idea of how she's putting things together in terms of color theory.
So you'll see how I have introduced, you know, the first thing I put on the third one over near the door was that real citrusy lemon yellow. Then I decided, oh, wouldn't it be fun to play up a red violet against that? Because the violet is the opposite of yellow, but the red sort of makes it interesting. And then,
Well, they're actually opposites.
yeah,
The
because there's more green
Yeah.
in that yellow, and the opposite of green is red, and then the opposite of yellow is violet. So with the red violet, it works with that greeny yellow for that reason.
yeah, it's an actual
It's got two
wonderful
complements in it,
relationship.
and that's what I meant by triadic. It's hard to describe, but you've got multiple complements. And the same goes for the one all the way to the left. I have red-orange, and then I have yellow-orange, and then I have the red-purple. Again, they're on different parts of the color wheel. And that's why they look interesting.
But it really is like a chord in
Yeah.
music.
Chord,
They
yeah.
putting 2 or 3 colors together, like 3 notes.
Yeah, and I didn't set out to make in the middle one, I did not set out to make an ocean scene, but it turned out to remind everyone of, you know, ocean life and a starry sky. And those are just, you know, orange and blue, the opposites. And actually the blue is kind of a blue-green, so that complements that red-orange color
A little spot of red.
that you see, you know, in the shrimp-like or salmon-like shapes or whatever that is. So I just wanted to look at that for a second because those are a little more simplified, and so it's easier to explain what I'm talking about because there's so many colors in a lot of these that you might get lost in it.
Each one does have a different color flavor, a different palette,
Yeah.
which is part of what she does, is that she'll have a feeling and she'll go for a feeling and she'll have a few chords of color in her mind and go for it, and then that painting ends up with that emotional character that that particular palette evokes. And it's fun to go from one to another and experience in your body and your emotions what that painting's doing to you color-wise, and then the next painting, and just it's a shift in what you're experiencing in your body. I feel it right in here and in my emotions, and that's fun. It's like an album, a musical album that's put together in such with a beautiful pace. So there's one thing in a certain key and a certain tempo and a certain kind of character, and then you go to the next, then they shift to another mood for the next song. And it's an art form just putting an album together, and it's an art form putting a art show together with how they all fit next to each other and talk to each other.
Yeah. Also, I have often a feeling of a place. So these two here, this one is Chicago, and then one next to it is Key West, Florida. Yeah. And you can feel it, obviously, with the shapes and the colors. And this looks like a big city, bright lights, big city. Anyway, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do my best with my English, but I would like to ask you something more personal,
Okay.
away from technique.
Yeah.
Have you faced the imposter syndrome? I understand that you are an artist since a long time ago, but how do you deal with that if you have faced it? The imposter syndrome.
I don't even know what the imposter syndrome
Oh,
is.
like feeling like I'm not a real artist. I need to know more, or I don't have the credentials to be an artist.
As a matter of fact, in high school, I played the violin in the orchestra, and I had done that since about 4th grade. But I was really interested in the visual arts, and I was taking an advanced watercolor course. And I took one of my watercolor paintings up to the teacher and said to her, what do you think? And she said, oh, give it up. She says, you're never, she did. You're never going to be an artist. She said, go stick with your violin. Wow. And that really ticked me off. It's like, well, I don't think so.
But teachers doing that have discouraged so many people who had the desire to express themselves visually inside, but they got shut down by teachers. This is a common thing.
I, for many years, did not think I was good enough to ever be an artist, but I still enjoyed doing it. So I continued on taking classes and just playing with it, not trying to be great or be, be anything special. It was really just for me. Until I started having people, and this isn't necessarily what makes you think you're good, but people started to want to buy them for their homes. Now, you don't want to judge on if how many you sell means you're good, but it made me realize, well, at least I'm reaching other people who enjoy what I do, so I should keep going, And then at one point I had, there's a thing called Jyotish, where you have it's sort of Indian astrology. And I asked in there if it said anything about me being an artist. And the person said, oh, absolutely. He said, you'll actually suffer if you don't do art. It's very strong in your chart. You should completely keep it up. You just need to work on your technique. Once I heard that and knew that I would be supported by nature if I applied myself, then I began to really get more serious.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But what you have brought up is the drama of being an artist, and everybody deals with what you brought up in one way or another. And I have to teach people to have faith in themselves and be confident and go ahead and be their own. You're your own greatest critic, but you have to be careful about that, because perfectionism ruins great artists, because they get paralyzed because they can't go forward because they're paralyzed. Nothing's good enough. So I have to, with good people, I have to more work with their perfectionist problems than their technique. But everybody goes through this, and you just have to not listen to everybody else who's telling you things, except for me. If you're my student, no, so you listen to the people who you respect. But even then, you have to go on your own gut feeling. Yeah, it's a very common thing.
It looks like you use a lot of stencils. Is that right?
Yes, lately I have been. Like this one, no, I didn't. That one I didn't. But lately I've been introducing stencils, so that's where you'll see a lot more of those realistic, like a lot of palm fronds and flowery type leaves and things. or other geometric forms. And I just found they were kind of interesting elements.
Yeah, and you can move them around.
Yeah.
Like that painting there with the blue, you have 4
Yeah.
right there above.
Yeah.
Or the 4 blue stencils.
Yeah. I had fun. I didn't know I would like it. In fact, at first, I tried to create my own stamps.
Uh-huh.
And that proved to be a little difficult. But that was what I was going for, was this look, to be able to stamp on shapes. And so I thought one day I'll just try some stencils and see what happens. And I really liked the effect.
Yeah, it's sort of like having chords. You're playing chords on a piano, and you
Yeah.
put one here and put one down there.
Yeah,
and
and in that case, you know, the way I placed them creates a dynamism, whereas if they were just in the 4 corners, it'd be very grounded and kind of flat. In this case, they move through the painting. So it creates a tension, sort
Right.
of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to do something bad with stencils.
Yeah.
But to use it as a tool and turn it into and really use it,
Yeah,
just like
well,
any
you can
kind of.
create balance in the painting by putting them in different
And then
places.
she'll go and paint into the stencils and
Yeah.
different colors, and I've been enjoying the stencils.
That one there, the second one, is quite striking with stencils and that almost neon pink and
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of stencil.
And that one stencil there reminded people of pineapples.
You have to also spend some time with any painting, especially contemporary or modern art. You have to spend some time, and the painting wakes up and comes alive for you. At first, it's like the first time you hear a song, and you hear the melody and stuff, and then you like the melody. But sometimes songs are only a melody, and it's charming at first, but if after a while it makes you want to die to hear it again, because that song is so empty otherwise.
Yeah.
But you hear some really good music, and it's sort of hard to hear at first. That you spend some time with it, hear it many times, and you start to get really drawn into everything going on in there. And it's the same with these paintings.
So, Joanie, you have a concept, an idea, feeling. How do you decide what size canvas you're going to use that night? And how do you decide when a painting is finished?
I'm sorry I had to sit down, but I have a bad knee, and it was starting to hurt, so I didn't want to have pain while I'm talking to you. Anyway,
I think also did.
but
And you got a wheelchair
yeah, I need something. Anyway,
for me.
Oh, yeah, I'll get you a wheelchair. Here, Bill.
No, I'm kidding. Oh, okay.
No, go. The size of the canvas, to be honest with you, depends on what's on sale at Dick Blick. No, really, I'll get like a deal and get a bunch of these great big ones and then paint on those for a while, and then, you know. Sometimes the big ones will take me longer than 6 hours, and sometimes I'm a little tired or something. I'm not really into it, because you really do have to move a lot and stand up and down to get the top part of it, because it barely fits on my easel. So those are more difficult. These 24 by 24s, like up in the balcony, those are easy because they're smaller. These are my favorite size, 36 by 36, because they fit on my easel and they're not too big to ship to somebody. I'll tell you what, they actually have to, Dick Blick actually hires a moving service when they bring me these big canvases, because they're too big to ship regularly. And that gets quite expensive, like $200 extra just, and they'll show up in this big moving van and bring them. So I hope I never sell one of those big ones to somebody out of town. So I'm not sure how to get it to them, but anyway.
But you even do 12 by 12s, and I think I even have maybe some.
Yeah.
You do 12 by 12s
Yeah,
and even
you
5 by 5s.
you
I
bought
think
some
I
For
have.
little
the
ones.
mini art, for the art auction, she delivers small stuff.
Yeah.
But she's quite, her work tends towards the more expanded.
Well, I have more room on the bigger canvases, so I prefer the bigger ones because I can, get more in there. When I have to go down to 12 by 12, I feel a little restricted. I got to move to smaller brushes. I have to actually take more time because I can't just put a big sweep thing through it. It's off the canvas, so I have to adjust. I prefer the big ones.
So
Big is
you,
your studio, like this big? I mean, these are big canvases to have, to
Yes.
around with,
Well,
roughly. I mean,
yeah, we bought the house we're in now because it had a full unfinished basement of 2,000 square feet. We renovated it and made it into a studio gallery. It's called the Blue Moon Gallery. We also added, a little sitting area by a fireplace. There's a table, there's a library, there's a
It's basically the nicest studio in town.
Yeah.
Rent out space like a corner.
so Joanie,
Yeah.
you paint on an easel upright, not
Yeah.
flat.
Not flat, no.
Yeah. When
I like that.
When I paint, I always paint flat because my paint is very liquid.
Right.
And it would drip. I'll drip down on the bottom.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
When I do liquids, I just let it drip, and then I brush it out. But I like being upright because I can see it better, especially the bigger, for me anyway, the bigger ones, I can see them. I often will stop after a little while and push it back and take a photo, and then I can really look at it as if I'm standing way far away and see the problems in the area in it, and decide what's my next step. And I forgot to also add, you also wanted to know, how do I know when it's done? Usually there's a feeling that there's not it's working, it's unified. There's not much more I could probably do to it. I can't think of what I could do to it. Then I run it by my best friend Billy, and he'll say, yeah, nope, it's done. Or, I don't really like that one piece there. What, could you do something? And almost like I read his mind, because he'll just convey a little bit and then I fix it. So I'm getting to the point, that I'm not as reliant on Bill. But he is just an absolute asset for that
But
final.
I'm in your head, or my sensibility is in your head
Yeah,
now.
he's in my head because he'll say, I can't believe from those few words I just said to you, you got it totally and just did what I was thinking. So I guess, we've melded mine.
Well, we both are analyzing it in the same way, and you always get stuck on your own painting. And
I've actually
you
even
can't
helped
see it
him on
anymore.
a couple of
That's
his
right.
paintings.
That's right.
And I was like, finally, I could help Bill, give back to all the.
Well, often you'll need to bounce something off of people whose eyes you respect, because you just need a fresh look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're so used to this world that she lives in and creates within, that we can just talk about like we're inside it, like we're inside this place where all these things are happening.
Yeah.
And you can feel like, oh, that color doesn't quite match, to go with the total harmonics.
Yeah.
And we don't analyze it, the triads and the this and that. We think that just doesn't feel right. And then I think, what about that one? Maybe a red-orange might feel right. And she said, oh, yeah.
And, we get together every Monday night and paint together. He does his little miniature realism things that he's doing now. And I paint my big abstracts. And I have a special table for Bill. And most of the time we don't talk. We're just listening to jazz and doing our own thing. But every so often we'll stop and go sit in the sitting area by the fireplace, and I'll put one of my paintings up, and he'll say, well, what do you think? And I'll say, well, I don't like that. And he goes, I don't either. But he lets me come to it first, which is nice. And then I realize I have a further to go. And so I start with just that. Let's paint out that area that's not working. Maybe it's just an ugly color and it's really distracting from the rest of the painting. Or maybe it's some line that's not working with the composition. And then once I get rid of it and, you know, then it's done. It's just was that one little finishing touch.
As far as the time it takes, or what, you know, size and all of that, this size is pretty good for an evening's painting, late into the night.
Yeah, we
and
usually
the ideal is to do it all in one session, because you'll be a different person the next day. And so the wholeness that you're experiencing inside that you want to get out, you can get it out in this one session. So that's ideal. However, the bigger ones, really they're too big and too much painting involved. So they're pretty much like two-day paintings. Mm-hmm. And of course, if something, we'll have several of these consultations on the couch looking at the paintings. And sometimes we decide that she's just got to wait and
look at it next week.
Start over next time.
But yes, that's a very good point. The reason I want to paint all in one session is that I have a certain emotion that I want to put down on the canvas. And when I've tried to get back to that place, I can't get quite back to that place if I wait too long. And so then it becomes a whole nother painting. And I like the freshness of doing one all in one sitting.
They call it alla prima painting.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, alla prima is one thing for acrylic painters and another thing for oil painters. She started doing, when she first shifted from, because I teach oil to get started with people, and she had been studying with Terrence Kennedy and doing things and was really quite successful with her watercolors. But then I always start everybody out with my fundamentals, no matter who they are, what they've studied before, which means color mixing and understanding the color wheel and basic drawing and stuff like that. So why did I get started on this?
Well, I started out doing my abstracts
so I
in
started
oil.
her doing the usual routine of teaching about the color wheel and the color mixing and all that with water mixable oils, because that's what I teach
And
people
I like that a lot.
And
but
oils are.
But it took too long to dry that I could not do a painting in one session. And
No,
so
she really found herself when she got to
the acrylics
acrylic.
were my friend,
her.
and they're cheaper too, which is helpful because you really have to invest a lot of money in the supplies, and I always wanted to buy the very best pigments, and so when I went to acrylic, it's about half the price of an oil of the same color. Also, I think after my years of painting with watercolor, I found the acrylics were very similar in that you can paint very thin washes and glazing, and which is just one thin wash after the other, and it creates a depth in the color. You can, rinse your brushes with water, which is really easy and nice, clean up, and then just basically the fact that it can dry within 10 minutes and you can be on to your next layers. So that's I've just stayed with the acrylic.
And with oils, you have to wait 4 or 5 days or a week or more for it to dry before you can paint it out, change it, or do anything.
So the biggest canvas I ever painted with the oils was these 24 by 24. I hadn't even gotten to these big, larger ones until I went to acrylic.
De Kooning had a problem with his oils drying, and so he would put newspaper against them to soak up some of the oil, and then some of the newsprint would show on the paintings, and that made an interesting
That's kind of
texture.
interesting. Yeah, I like that.
Was that how did he invent that transfer process through that?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's fun. Anything else?
Do you want to walk around some and talk about individual paintings, or what would people like to do?
Or do you want to move on to the next room?
Well, yes, that's what I mean.
I don't
Move
know
over there.
about talking about each one unless someone has a question.
Not each one. I meant if you
Oh.
wanted to talk about any particular one.
Oh.
In this room, then we'll go to the
Oh, I
next
see
room.
what you're saying. Well, those two down there at the end are back when I was doing very action paintings, much like you'd see like a Pollock do a lot of swirls and not as much of these later paintings where there's more pieces of color. You know what I'm saying? They're much more swirly.
We call
and-
this kind of painting more of a field painting, because you could imagine this going in every direction, continuing on, as opposed to shapes that are composed inside a picture plane, which is the direction she's gone in more recently. Generally, if you've been doing field painting, which is more like the abstract expressionists like Jackson Pollock and de Kooning and like that, the urge comes from within to want to have some shapes emerging from the field, and that leads to usually the next phase where artists want to work with shapes and forms.
Okay, so we'll start in this room. I have a lot of favorites in this room. This is my favorite room. What do I say? I don't know. Why? I don't know. Colors. The colors are appealing. This one here actually sold. I'm gonna miss it. Yep, it used to be in my living room, so I'll have to find another favorite. But I'm willing to let it go. I've had it for a while. That's before I was using stencils, so I made my own designs.
When I talk about spending some time with them, you start to get sucked in. This is a painting, but I can do it with almost every one of the paintings in here. You can look at just that little section right there, and it's just really, really cool. Just the relationships of forms and the colors. But then you can go over here, and that's equally as cool, and that's equally as cool, and that's really cool. Everything going on inside there, all the little forms and colors talking to each other right here. Well, that's throughout the painting, and that's what I like so much about looking at her work.
Yeah, that's exactly my experience. Like I'm traveling inside the painting.
Yeah, you're going
I feel
in
like I'm
there.
traveling inside the paintings, and they're just
Exactly.
endlessly delightful. You know,
They are like a journey.
yeah,
They
it's a
really
journey.
are.
Yeah.
And that's you're feeling that because that's how I feel as I'm creating it. I'm going through a journey of what do I want to put here? What would look good here next to that there? How would I complement that shape with this shape, or that color with this color? You got a lot of design over there. Is there something I could do that's a little more like a restful part of the painting, so it's not too much jazzy jive, have a little respite space. The sky, for example, that blue sky up there is restful. It lets the eye rest for a bit before it goes back into the journey. So that's me, I'm composing when I do it, creating a passage or a trip.
And you have to take into account, getting lost in it up close. That has to work, but also it has to work from 10 feet and 12 feet away also,
Yeah.
as a total composition.
Yeah,
You got to take a lot of things into account.
right. And so oftentimes I'll have parts that look great up close, because those big ones I'm really up close when I'm painting them. And that's when I have to stand back and snap a picture of it and look at it to see, is it working as a whole? because I'd have to literally get up and move that canvas clear across to the other side of the studio to be able to look at it properly. So that photography, taking a snap of it, is a very valuable tool for me to be able to see if it's working as a wholeness.
That middle one just strikes me like it's a big windstorm. All these things are being tossed about and blown
That's
about
what it looks
somehow.
like if you're inside of a
But in a very
tornado.
exciting, wonderful way, not a,
And everything in the house is
That's
going
it.
with you.
everything's flying
That's
around.
the Wizard of Oz, yeah.
Yeah, I
And
love it.
inside
It's
that
beautiful.
tornado.
A nice movement to it. And these two are spectacular, I think.
Thank you.
And this one just has that sort of harmony and it sort of, well, it reminds me of musicality to
Yep.
it too.
Yeah.
And this one is spectacular. I'm wondering how you did that. And like how, do you do the colors, the same color through the whole thing and then put in another color? Or do you start in a specific place and then just work from there? Or
Well, I first off, I love that painting because it had a lot of glazes of color, like a watercolor. It looked, I purposely left a lot of white so it kind of glows from within, or you feel like you're looking through a stained glass window maybe or something. As far as the colors, you know, oftentimes I mix all my colors. None of them come right out of the tube. So if I've mixed up a yellow, orange, yellow, you know, I'll move it around the canvas in different spots just because I want that, you know, you don't necessarily want that color in one place. So I will dab some of that color here and there, but not really develop it yet. And then, you know, go to the next color. And again, I just put things on top of one another. Some things I cover up.
so did you sort of start with lighter colors underneath and then work through the whole canvas and then come back?
Yeah, I worked
as
from,
opposed to one spot or the center or,
yeah, I worked from light to dark.
you know.
So the last thing I would have put on is those dark blues.
But you'll be working over the entire canvas,
Yeah.
a wave and then another wave. Isn't
Yeah,
that right?
that's-
Yes.
That's beautiful, and it has the lightness, I think, with the white in it and all that.
Yeah, I particularly like that because it reminds me of my watercolors.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful painting.
And it's very balanced.
Thank you. These paintings behind here are all, we put them together because they all, they have a very kind of Matisse feeling to them in that they have the design. Would you say, Bill? We kind of thought they looked a lot Matisse.
They
Like
do.
a Matisse.
They do.
He's my idol. I love how he maybe has a girl sitting in a chair in a room, and then you look over to the side and he has these beautiful, almost cartoonish flowers, and you know, to kind of display maybe wallpaper. But he doesn't try to make, you know, those flowers look realistic. He just basically, you know, he just has these beautiful patterns, and he's just a master of color. I've always loved his work. And so these I was trying a little bit more to create some interesting patterns, much like he does. And so,
No, they're totally Matisse alive in the 21st century. They have so many new tools in the art store that you can work with.
it's so fun. Yeah, I saw him one day at Dick Blick, and the artist there that was helping me said, "Oh, you're gonna love those."
Yeah.
I said, "I better get a few more."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did, and I did love them. They were wonderful.
But this is a painting that is not what you'd call a field painting. The one we were looking at right over there, that she was talking about the glazes and all that. That is pretty much a field painting. You can feel it extending, like a field, like a whole, not a field like corn, like a field with forms agitating inside the field without a focal point. that's like the abstract expressionist paintings. And it's the idea is that that experience could extend infinitely in every direction.
Like a
And you're
Jackson
yeah.
Pollock is a field painting, or a Rothko field painting.
Yeah.
It could keep going right off the canvas. It doesn't have any set focal point or shape that's dominant. It
And-
looks like wallpaper. It could be wallpapers, you know, kind of, that's the idea. Could keep going.
But this one is more shapes composed within the picture plane. It's a real composition. And I like the freedom and the activity that's in those other paintings, but there's also controlled putting shapes and forms and geometric things together.
It's like ribbon candy, what we had when we were kids. This especially. Yeah. And I still love it so much. And it was shiny like that.
Like Christmas candy. Yeah, I remember.
This is one of my favorites. And, I mean, like I say, I can go one day and love one, and the next day love another one. And I was falling in love with this one again as you guys were talking about it.
So, maybe I missed part of what you said, but I'm interested in knowing of all the work that's here, how it is that this is your favorite.
Because at this time, 9:05,
That's why.
on whatever night, Thursday night, May 20th, I love this one.
No,
But I'm
he
fickle.
really does like this one a lot, and I don't know why.
You don't know why?
Well, I mean, I love it too, but I don't know why you love it the best.
Today.
It's hard. Well, actually,
No, he really does.
Consistently, I love this one.
Yeah.
And I just think it's got so much going in there. Compositionally, it's very tight. You know, the way the forms are put together. I mean, composition is really a tricky situation. It goes south on you so easily. And it just, everything out of balance, everything's falling out the bottom, it's just so hard to put forms together flat that work. And then at the same, what you find when you start working with abstract painting is that there's a spatial dimension that you're working with at the same time. So when you can put forms together so that one goes in front of the other, but maybe the mind could shift slightly, and the one behind now pops forward, and you put all these different sort of like trips you can take the viewer on together in an interesting way that feels balanced and harmonic. It's really hard. It's definitely like composing music.
There's something about the joy of standing in this room, in this alcove, surrounded by these exquisite paintings, and when you say what makes it wonderful, and also being together, it's like a group, not group meditation, but a group experience of beauty and
thank
joy
you.
that is really precious. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's what the arts are supposed to do.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about it? It's good teaching abstract.
And also,
I want her to teach.
there's
you
an
that.
emotional reaction to this. I mean, I
We've
know,
talked about that.
I know it's magical. I know what you talk about, you know, the balance and the putting this together in a very balanced way and everything. But my experience, I have no intellectual understanding of it at all. But I just get completely happy. in
No,
the
you
face
don't
of it.
need to understand anything.
Right.
The happiness and the harmony
Right.
is the result of all this, you know, the
Right.
depth of her abilities. But you don't
Right.
need to know anything about analyzing it. You just get the product
I know,
delivered to you
it's such
with
a gift.
happiness.
It's
Yeah.
such a gift.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to share. That's the reason I do it, really. Is to share my joy with others.
Here's how this painting affects me. I know absolutely nothing about abstract art. For me, you were talking about field versus different types of composition for abstract. This is like a portal. Like there's a frame, and I'm looking up through the sky, flowers, and the sky. This is my interpretation. And for me, there's actually an infinity point, more than one. It just goes on and on. there's this kind of depth. It doesn't
Right.
feel
And you
flat.
have that many times in one painting.
Yes.
If she's doing cool stuff. Yeah, no, that's the depth and the illusory. See, you get depth because an illusion of depth is being created. There's no depth there. And it's in realistic painting, you're drawn into the depth of the realistic place just automatically because we've created something that's inside the mind of the viewer, a place. So the depth and everything is all built in. But it's just a flat piece of paper or canvas with shapes on it, only it evokes from inside the viewer memories, or from the storehouse of impressions, all that stuff that's in there starts to live on that canvas. And when we're dealing with abstract art, it's like a dream, which isn't so coherent as a realistic photograph of reality. It's these flavors of things, and so things float in and out, the referential things of nature and stuff, and the feeling of a sky or looking through something in the sky in the distance, and all of this that's the depth and the realistic elements that she's working with. And then you're describing your experience, which is what we want you to have. That good experience. Yeah.
Are you having that experience when you're painting it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I purposely did this light blue because I had already done these yellows and pinks, and I thought, I need something that pushes back, and blues tend to recede. Oranges and reds come forward, and yellows come forward. So the idea was that was going to go behind and take you back.
But this is totally a recapitulation in a new and fresh way 100 years later of Matisse. Because this is totally drawn from the Nice paintings that Matisse did in the, probably when it was, the 1920 or something.
Yeah.
An interior with maybe some pattern wallpaper or something, and some drapes or something, and some flowers, and looking through out to the sea behind. This is just
And also it's like
so
a vine or tree
but it really
coming up and out.
And also the thing in the upper right, that orange thing. I mean, this no, to the right, yeah, all the way in the corner. The stripes are very concrete, and they're coming forward, and it's concrete. And then there's that diaphanous, translucent. It's like another reality that's kind of filtering through the concrete.
Yeah.
You know, it's
and
very delicate.
here too.
I'll tell you, making these decisions on the fly is almost impossible, and having it work. So that's why it's been she's developed her abilities over 20 years of practice of doing it. And it's amazing. I'll just be amazed at how I can't believe you put that together. You did that. And then she's doing it spontaneously. So all of this understanding that we talk about in the analysis and that we do when we analyze them, that's built in, and it's so layered and so right. All of these things are in her mind spontaneously when she does it, but she's not thinking about a thing. Her hand is doing it, but all of that stuff is behind the stroke of that hand.
But that one hasn't been sold yet, has?
Almost, but
Almost.
they decided on another one. They were going to buy it, yeah.
Which ones did you sell? Is it okay?
So far, I've sold 2. One isn't even in the show. It didn't make the cut. But my friend from high school saw it and wanted it. And the other one's in there on that wall. It's mostly a periwinkle background. Got 3 or 4 other people still interested in others, so we'll see.
It must be difficult sometimes to let go of certain ones, or no?
It is when I first paint them, but not so much after I've had them for a few years, because I have so many that I just find another one to hang in their place.
Is your gallery open? You said you have a gallery in the house?
It's called the Blue Moon Gallery because once in a blue moon, I'll let people in. It's mostly just to hang my stuff so I can see it. So when people are interested in buying a painting, they'll come and go through and look at all my paintings.
Where's your gallery?
In my house
Here or where?
in Fairfield.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have a big storage area that was built in for me by Bob Kiefer that has just tons of paintings in this one area with shelving. So I have to pull them out, and I forgot I even did them. So I guess I didn't get too attached.
You have too many. It's
Yeah.
like having 1,000 children.
Yeah. Oh. Or too many cats.
I remember, I don't know if will elicit anything inside of you or not. I remember recently talking with a painter, and she was selling her favorite painting. And she turned to me just in that moment, just because I happened to be there, and said, I don't know if I can do that again.
Do the painting again? Oh, well, you'll never
Something
do a
on
second
that-
painting
on
again.
that.
Never do.
You
No,
never can.
You never will do it again, but that's okay with me. I think at this point I've made so many of them, I'm okay with that. So I'm less attached than in the old days when I would make one that was really better than I'd done in a while. Then I didn't want to sell it. But now, like I said, there's so many of them. I want to share. I want someone else to get joy out of it rather than have it stored. So, because I only have so much room in my house, so I can't put them all up.
And you trust, like when there's one in particular that you step away from, and maybe the feeling at the moment is something like, where did that come from?
Yeah, that's the feeling, all right.
Yeah, but I know that same place where that came from is going to bring me something new out of
You
it.
trust that now?
I do, because like he said, I paint intuitively. I know my intuition's going to do another thing, because a lot of times I say, I can't believe I did that. I don't know who did that. I didn't do it. It wasn't the little me. It was the big I that did it.
But it was that creative intelligence that's inside of you that
Right.
painted the picture. All the pictures that we ever show here are only painted by one artist, and that's we call that artist creative intelligence.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love hearing that you've learned to trust that. You know it will come again.
Yeah.
Not in the exact same way. It'll
Right.
be a new expression.
Right.
But it'll be there.
Yeah.
And that's the goal, is for you to become an artist, which means it can happen at any moment.
Yeah.
I mean, you bring that to everything you do.
Right. Another one of my favorites is in the window, and some people don't notice it even. I've had that in my bedroom. It just makes me happy when I see it in the morning.
Now, would you call that a field?
It's in between.
In between.
Ah.
Yeah, because you see there's that like bird-like shape.
Uh-huh.
That takes it a little bit away from being a field.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of strong shapes
It's gorgeous.
emerging from the field there.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. So there's, flowers, and there's sun, and there's leaves and vines, and it just makes me feel like a spring morning.
And then there's that jagged line, that jagged black line, which is well, it's almost like a counterpoint, you know what I mean? That black,
The jagged line.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, anyway.
And look at the spider. The other black line up the top right corner.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's
I
You didn't like it? Oh.
I thought it was a musical note.
Oh, it could be, but I just always thought it looked a little bit like a spider.
No, to me
Give
it
it
was
to-
music.
I see that.
I did see that, but now I see the
Oh, people, it's like these paintings are a lot like a Rorschach.
Yeah.
You bring
Right.
your inner life to them, and it'll evoke.
I continue to see new things. So I have a painting up right now because all of the paintings I had in my house are here that I had up. So I have an older one, and it's in the living room, and I've been looking at it from the couch, and I'm seeing all these faces in it I'd never seen before. Like, where did those people come from? Never saw that before. So it continues to happen.
Looking at that one, it
Don't
looks
worry.
like anyway, the top.
Well, look at
there's
how
a
you're looking out
curtain
into the
and
night
then
sky
drifts,
there.
and then, I mean,
A fuzzy oobla in there.
Well, some folks said they thought it looked like a stage, the curtain, and then the lower part is more like backstage with ladders and doors and whatnot. So yeah.
But I never saw that.
I wouldn't
I'm
think
more
about it like
seeing the
that.
dark midnight sky with a funny thing.
That funny thing
And the
that
ladder to the funny thing.
the funny thing is that I was covering up something else and then I decided to keep it. And he said, "I like that funny thing."
I mean, this is a very unusual painting. This is not your everyday. It's quirky, and I like it. I love
Yeah.
that little frond dead center right there. It's like the object of adoration in this painting. And we're trying to get at it in different ways, climbing the ladder, through the thing, up. Yeah.
When do you bring in the stencils? Is that near the beginning, the middle, the end, or is it different on every painting?
All throughout. You know, I'll decide that area maybe is too flat and I want to create some depth, so I'll use a stencil over it. Then I'll paint the stencil, paint the lines, paint inside the lines, that kind of thing.
I think in
It's
general,
very-
I don't want to take them too literally.
No, you shouldn't.
Like that, or say,
Nothing means anything because it
No,
means
it's-
different things to different people.
Right,
we're
right.
more random.
And we'll
Yeah.
sit there and say it looks like this and that. Is kind of a
Right.
fun game we play, but actually I mostly like them as abstract forms and
Yeah.
colors
Yeah.
more than anything.
Did you use stencils or something some of the time? For those?
Sometimes I do, yeah.
Like those shapes up at the top? Or,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. I'm glad to be able to talk to Joanie about her work. Thank you, Joanie.
Thank you.